Some may say it's playing with your food. Phoenix Suns up by 13 in this game. Slowly but surely allow the San Antonio Spurs to do the one thing you don't want a young team to do. That's feel confident. The Spurs, led by Keldon Johnson and some guy with Dennis Rodman-like hair, slowly make a comeback, start hitting some shots, start gaining some confidence, and tie the game at 110. Game goes to overtime after 3 misses by the Spurs to force that overtime. But Matthew, ultimately, the Phoenix Suns outscore the San Antonio Spurs by 10 in overtime, win the game 128-118. Crisis averted, correct?
Correct. And we did get to see the Rodman hair. I love it. Just don't wear a wedding dress or anything like that. That's his thing. But I do like the hair. You know, if we're going to play the Spurs, at least these guys look kind of cool now because they always used to be kind of hideous in a way, right?
Just
so they kind of redesigned the
ugly
team.
Franchise.
Now some like good looking cats out there with some cool looking hair. Like it's good. You know what I mean? Before it was like, dude, where do these guys crawl out of? You know what I mean?
Popovich's ass.
Yeah. So now better looking team. So, but a tough game tonight. But they pull it out. Who cares?
Well, thankfully, I care.
I care too.
Once they forced it to overtime, I'm like, oh, great, dude.
I thought it was over.
Angry John, here we come again.
I was laughing. After every three, the one that rolled in,
yeah, it's like
bounce off the back. I'm like, all right. I just started laughing so hard, man.
It's just not fair. It's just not fair. Yeah, I'm like, please, Suns, please pull this one out. The poor Jamsters had to deal with Angry John last time. Did I say some things I shouldn't have? No.
Exactly, no. I was like, thank you.
Yeah. No, I just said what I said, and I stand by it. And I think I echo a lot of the franchise's angst, and that's the advantage or disadvantage of doing the Suns Jam Session podcast live after every Phoenix Suns game, is sometimes we carry the emotion of the game and our thoughts and our feelings right into the podcast. And it's interesting because I actually went back and I watched the pod and I watched the live chat because the live chat was popping after the last pod. So thank you, Jamsters. Those of you who join us live
thank you.
After every game and you log on to YouTube or Facebook or Twitter and you're watching the podcast and you're simply interacting with your fellow Jamsters in the chat, going back and forth, debating the same topics that Matthew and I are debating. And there's people who are pro what I'm saying, and there's people who are anti what I'm saying and what you're saying as well. And it was actually a really good go back and watch the chat and just see how they were interacting, because they were literally interacting like all of us were. And that's just what happens with this franchise. That's what happens at the just past the halfway point of the season, prior to the All-Star break, prior to the trade deadline. There's so many different factors and variables at play, and there's so many different reasons to be happy and so many different reasons to be frustrated. Tonight, the Phoenix Suns, in true fashion, gave us both sides of that. They gave us reasons to be happy, and they gave us some reasons to be frustrated. So those are the things, once again, we're going to discuss on this edition of the Suns Jam Session podcast. So if you happen to be watching along live again, thank you for firing up the chat and getting those conversations going. Landon Alverson in the chat says Angry Voida scares me. I'm sorry. Nikki Tan says, don't hold back, John. You represent our voices.
I love that one. It's so true. If we were to come out here and just, hold things back, we want to be ourselves, and
no one cares.
Just really quick. The worst thing I hate is when people do speak their mind, whether it is hate on a player or not. And everyone just is upset because they don't agree with it. You know what I mean? It's just let everyone talk, let everyone have their thing. And if it's a little bit negative, who cares? If it's negative, it's fine. It's just a reaction to the game. And we can have our own opinion, man. Whether or not you're going after other people, who cares? That's the part of sports. That is sports there.
That is sports.
Don't tell people how to argue this game of sports, because none of it makes any sense. None of it makes any sense. So let us do what we want to do. Let John be who he wants to be. You know what I mean? He's all grown up now.
I am grown up now, and I'll say what I want to say, and I'll feel how I want to feel. Gosh darn it. And I'll drink what I want to drink. And tonight I'm drinking a Blue Moon Haze, hazy, juicy India Pale Ale after my little nap. So let's talk about this game against the San Antonio Spurs. Again, if you're listening to the podcast, head to Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star review. Tell me what you really think about my reactions and Matthew's reactions to this team. But wherever you are, pop them if you got them on this beautiful Saturday night. Yeah. Let's talk about a win for the Phoenix Suns, who are once again over 500, 26-25. Phoenix Suns win this game in overtime, 128-118 against the San Antonio Spurs. Second time that we've played them this season. The first time we absolutely pasted them. But it brings me to my first question.
Matthew, I got to ask.
Did we learn anything in this game?
Yeah, I think we still did. I think we did. I think going into this game, I was actually watching to see how the chemistry was and if they were playing together well. Last game was just very, very weird all over the place. We just learned more about Ayton tonight. We learned about this offense in clutch situations without Booker, who can step up, who can be the number 2. I think we found out who that guy is because he's been way consistent. That's Mikal Bridges. And we found out that Chris Paul's back. We found out that there's a lot of work to do with Ayton on this team, playing with this team in late moments of the game and throughout the game. We know how much more work there is to do with this guy. And I just like how you think a Spurs game's kind of boring, but no, you still learn a lot about this team. I mean, they did almost lose a game, but I saw a lot of positives on some sides.
So let's start. You covered a lot there. Wow, we've learned a ton.
Yeah, that's it. That's the whole pot.
That's the whole pot. Well, thank you,
thing,
Matthew.
man.
You just wrapped up everything. Make sure you guys go back. Everyone go back to your nap on the Saturday night.
Yes.
Well, I want to start with the number 2. The number 2 on this team. We were talking about it a little bit in the past. It is up for debate. And I'll ask you this question. Who is the number 2? We know Devin Booker's the number 1. Offensive threat. Like he is the alpha on this team. Who is the number 2?
I'm gonna go Mikal right now.
Okay.
I remember back in the day, maybe a month ago, when we didn't know who it was, whether it was Ayton or Bridges, who would step up to be the number 2. Bridges took kind of a step backwards there for a while, but he's been so consistent for the last 3 weeks or so, where he's proven that he has a better game, something that we knew he had. He's brought it out. And tonight, when he ended the game, just taking over, I'm like, okay, maybe it's Chris Paul, but the way that Mikal can handle the ball, get better looking shots because he can create on him by himself. Paul, you need that screen. You need the screen and roll. You need the fadeaway, tough looking shots for CP3. But also Bridges they're tough looking shots too, but they're different. A lot of them around the rim. He's drawing the foul. He's still has a fadeaway, but it's a different kind of fadeaway. It's not just after a pass, one dribble fadeaway. He gets to a spot and it's a fadeaway. He can get us those big shots. He's pretty accurate. And I think he can be the number 2. And the only reason I'm saying that is because he's continuing to be aggressive with the ball. And in the fourth quarter, where it didn't seem like he handled the ball as much again, I was like, I think Mikal's going to get like 10 more shots this game. 10 more attempts. It didn't look too good going in the fourth, but he's not Kyrie, but I was watching the Brooklyn Nets game before. He kind of ended this game the same way. It's like he couldn't stop the dude. He has the confidence that we want him to have. And he's impressive now, man. I trust the guy. Like I've been trusting him, and he might slow down a little bit, but if Monty keeps on him, he'll keep playing this way. Not like he's going to make every shot, but in a way, we trust him to take that shot. And that's why I'm saying right now, I think he's number 2, a little bit over Chris Paul.
You bring up a lot of valid points in this conversation, and it's a valid conversation to have right now because, first off, everything that Mikal Bridges has done in the last 8 games is exactly what we've needed him to do and be with Devin Booker out. Now, Devin Booker tonight missed his 16th consecutive game with that groin injury. And if you look at how Mikal Bridges was playing in those first few games with Devin Booker out, right? So starting with the game at Memphis on the 27th of December through the 11th of this month. Okay, I've posted these statistics before, but in those 9 games, he was shooting from the field 41.5%, which is not the end of the world for a forward. 38.2% from beyond the arc, not horrible by any means. That's what you want. He scored 14.6 points per game and attempting 11.8 field goal attempts. And that is when I kind of put out there into the Twitter sphere I literally just put those statistics. I said that the Phoenix Suns with Devin Booker, or I'm sorry, Mikal Bridges with Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges without Devin Booker. And when you had compared the two statistics, it was pretty much the same. In fact, his shot attempts were down and his points per game were down. And that's when we had posed on the podcast the notion that maybe he's just not that guy. We want him to be that guy. And right now, these games without Devin Booker, this is when he could really show off who he can be. And this is his opportunity to display what he can be as an offensive player. Since that tweet that I put out, and which I put out on the 11th of January, since then, not including tonight, he's at 21.9 points per game. He's shooting 47% from the field. He's shooting 42% from beyond the arc. He's averaging 16.7 field goal attempts. So 5 more field goal attempts in the last 7 games. Tonight against the San Antonio Spurs, he was 10 of 18. He was only 1 of 4 from beyond the arc, but he had 25 points in this game. He had 4 assists, a steal, a block, and he was an absolute – he won the game for the Phoenix Suns in that fourth quarter. I don't see his current point total because NBA.com is being kind of funny, but it was at least 9 of the 18 points for the Suns, if not more. And so when we ask that question, who is the number 2 offensively for the Phoenix Suns? In my opinion, it's a 1A, 1B right now. It's a 2A, 2B, right? Like it's Devin Booker, and then it's Mikal Bridges 2A and Chris Paul 2B.
I like that.
Because Chris Paul is going to give you offensive production. He has been playing really well since his return. And knowing that you have those 2 options when Devin Booker comes back, and knowing that Mikal Bridges has increased his effectiveness as an offensive player, and as you mentioned, his shot making, the way he's making those shots, attacking, like you said, he's not just running across the middle and doing the fadeaway. He is dribbling into those fadeaways. He's shot creating rather than hitting a jumper while cutting on the run. Those little developmental things that we've seen over these past 8 games without Devin Booker present in the lineup, and let's be honest, with Chris Paul in the lineup, we've really seen a maturity and an offensive threat that is a viable force for this Phoenix Suns team and is what we've needed from Mikal Bridges. It's the same thing going back to Devin Booker. When Devin Booker was carrying this franchise for seasons, we were just looking for him. It's like, listen, we're not going to win these games. We just want to see him improve offensively. That's what we've seen from the Warden over these past 8 games.
Yeah, someone did tweet out about the same time you tweeted out that massive tweet that Bridges should be a 20-point per game guy. That got a lot of shit, but I was like, you know what? He could be.
He could be.
Even with Booker back, he still can be. And the only reason is because when you're going through the first 3 quarters of this game, and I think he had maybe 8 points or 9 points, and I was just like, you know what, though? I still feel it in him. I feel like he is that guy that can be the closer where maybe he focuses on defense, maybe he gets what he can offensively, but then when the time comes, when Chris Paul towards the end of the game, he might be a little tired. He defers to Mikal, and then Mikal can take over, and he can hit those shots. He can be the number 2, but he just answers a lot of our questions. You know what I mean? It's like I look forward to him to do that, to be in that position, to put the Suns in that position to win the game, because he can do it. I had no doubt. It's already just something I think about during games. I'm like, okay, Mikal's going to get the ball towards the end of the game, because Booker's not there. But even when Booker's there, double teams, who knows, man? It might even open up Mikal's game even more with the double teams and stuff with Booker. It might be even better for him. Who knows?
But that's the advantage of everything that's occurred with Devin Booker out, is now he has the confidence and the know-how to do it. The one thing you hope is when Devin Booker returns, which appears to be right around the corner for the Phoenix Suns. The one thing you hope is he doesn't get into the deferment mode that he can get into at times, to where he could have the ball, he could have the right matchup, he could dribble a couple times, get to his spot, but you know what? Devin's standing right over there, so I'm going to pass over to him. Because if you know Devin Booker, he will jump in his shorts and tell him, hey, man, take that shot. Because that's what the future of this franchise ultimately is going to be. And that's why it's the 2A, 2B, right? Because Chris Paul, he is being highly productive, and this is his fourth game back, I believe. He's been highly productive since his return, but it's not sustainable. We know it's not sustainable for years to come. We don't know if it's even sustainable this season. So Mikal Bridges having the ability, and he did it on both ends of the court, Matthew. That's what was fun about the overtime, because we said it. Once this game got to 110, and the Spurs had the ball, and they had like 3 shots at the basket. DA's missing rebounds and blocks and all kinds of stuff. They're missing the shots, thankfully. And it went to overtime, and Mikal Bridges went on the right baseline and hit that Devin Booker-esque fadeaway. I was right with you. I was like, oh, this could be fun. This could be a Mikal Bridges takeover opportunity. And then he did on both ends. He had the block on the three-pointer. He looked fantastic, man.
Yeah, that is the best part. Is I feel like the way he was kind of owning it in the moment. He celebrates a lot. Remember, he got the technical last game with throwing down the threes, and I totally did it wrong. When he got the technical, I was like, well, he's been doing that for forever. He does celebrate a lot, but even tonight, he was kind of, I don't know if it was premature, but he has a lot of confidence. I always remember Chris Paul talking about he's a guy in practice that you wouldn't expect to talk a lot of shit, but he does.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that part of him. You know what I mean? Because when he loses and stuff, he's very humble about it. He understands what he needs to do better next game, and he takes it personally. You can tell he takes it deeply personal whenever they do lose a game. He puts a lot on him. So I like it. I feel like when he's cruising and he's like, I'm not going to miss shit. I'm going to win this game for us. And I'm like, yeah, go do it, man. Go celebrate. Who gives a shit? What's going to happen? Who cares? Like,
yeah,
what
they'll tee him up for no
premature.
reason.
Yeah, that actually does happen. That
It
might
does
happen.
I'm still frustrated with that technical from last game, but I don't want to talk about last
He did
game.
hold on to it a little bit too long, but I was like, eh.
He did, but I mean, it was the fact that it was like right in the bench, so
Yeah.
that's why I get it. Not a fan of it. Well, we talked about 2A, if you will. Let's talk a little bit about 2B. The point guard. So Chris Paul in this game, 12 of 20 from the field, 31 total points, 1 of 4 from beyond the arc, had 7 rebounds, had 11 assists, 2 blocks, 1 steal, a point of contention the entire broadcast for Eddie Johnson, right? He's like, I mean, to the point, for those of you who didn't watch the game and you come to the Suns Jam Session podcast to have an understanding of what went on, Chris Paul was picking the pocket of the San Antonio Spurs throughout the game, and they weren't really putting it in the steals column. And Eddie Johnson was talking about the broadcast, and he even said, like, during a media timeout, that the official score for the San Antonio Spurs had asked for a Kleenex, and Eddie said, hey, how about you get them some glasses too so they can see the steals that Chris Paul had. But 31 points from the point guard, man. Highly impressive game.
Yeah, he was cruising in the third. I thought Cameron Johnson came out really good in the third, 3 for 4. He started out hot. I was like, oh, this is going to be his quarter. But then he goes out, and Chris Paul kind of picks up. I mean, he was running the pick and roll with DA a lot, but he was just kind of getting to his spot and hitting it. He's been back for a while, but his game right now is it's super impressive because you wonder, like you mentioned it kind of earlier, like we don't know if it's sustainable, right? If it is going to the rest of the year. Who knows for the seasons to come, but even during a game, like, can he continue to do it game to game? And he has. He's been the guy for us, really just feeding off the bench. Booker is over there just like, dude? And he missed the 3, of course, to end the third quarter. Of course he did, but he hit pretty much all of the rest of it. I think he was 6 for 9 that quarter, 12 points. But that's it, man. I mean, if you have him, you have Mikal Bridges, you have Cameron Johnson, like, all these guys that can just hit fucking shots.
Yeah, like, isn't it amazing?
Are you going to stop it? Who knows? You know what I mean? You got Booker coming back. It's impressive because all these guys know where to go now on the court, and they can all be selfish, and we will all accept it. And I feel like they just know what to do. They take turns in a way. And when it's Chris Paul's turn now, it's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, because he's actually like he doesn't look like a 37-year-old or however old he
Not
is,
at all.
because that's what happened is literally the day after he turned 37 in the playoffs last season, since his latest injury, he looked old and slow.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you look at the first 40 games of the season for the Suns, right? Chris Paul played in 26 of them. And he averaged 13.1 points and 8.3 assists in those 26 games. 39.8% from beyond the arc, but only on 4.2 attempts, 42% from the field. But 13.3 and 8.3 assists. I'm sorry, but those statistics alone led all us Suns fans to go, you know what? Like the point guard's cooked, and that's just the way it is. And you just have to deal with it. Now, obviously, we're only 4 games back into him returning from his time away. He missed 7 games, I'm sorry. But since he's been back, he's averaging 22.3 points per game. He's averaging 11 assists a game. So from 13.8 and 8.3 to 22.3 points and 11 assists. That's why he's the 2B. And it's nice to have the point guard back, man. It really is. Ugh.
Yeah, and the rest too. Like he's gotten the rest. Now is a long stretch after the All-Star game comes. He'll be ready for whatever. I feel like I don't want him to go too hard. I like the way he's playing right now.
Agreed.
I feel like if he goes too hard, then he'll get hurt or something. And you don't want him to fall and hurt his elbow or something crazy like that.
Or anything. So that's my next question to you, Matthew. How do you think Monty Williams navigates Chris Paul? Just, you got to take it in segments, right? From here to the All-Star break, right? The All-Star break's the middle of February. We're 2.5 weeks out from that, right? How do you think he navigates that? Does he sit there and go, you know what, Chris, we're going to play you again, prior to tonight, the last 3 games, he was averaging 34.6 minutes per night, and he had 39 minutes. So he's coming back. He's getting like 36 minutes a game. It's not ideal for the point guard, right? But his production has been key to the Suns in those 4 games to be 3-1. And honestly, they could have been 4-0 if we didn't have a boneheaded center in the last game. So if that's the case, does Monty Williams say, listen, between here and the All-Star break, Chris, you're going to play. We're going to play the shit out of you, knowing that Devin Booker's soon going to be back and can take some of that pressure off of him, hoping that Cameron Payne can soon be back, hoping that Landry Shamet can soon be back. Do you think that's what Monty does, or does Monty just have no strategy whatsoever?
With Chris Paul, I think Chris Paul just does what he wants to do. You hear it all the time during tonight's game where Chris Paul wanted to come back 2 minutes early. He did because he wants to. I think they have an understanding where it's like Chris Paul will play when he wants to play. Beginning of the season, we were talking about we want Cameron Payne to be our starter and Chris Paul come off the bench, right? We said that almost after every game early in the season. And now it's like, well, you can kind of see Chris Paul is back. And now he's going to just pretty much play when he wants to play. The minutes, I think you can play the 35 to 40 a night. He's going to. I think it took so long for him to get into basketball shape. Mm-hmm. And now that we don't, what do we have, like 40 games? Not even 40 games, like 30 games left, 31 games.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
Now that we only have that much left, he needs that amount of time to really get into shape, especially with Booker coming back in this offense. And you have to work Ayton and stuff. Like they have to work on a lot going into the playoffs. They have to be comfortable. So I think he's going to get a lot of minutes, man. And I don't think Monty can do anything about it. And that's fine. I'm okay with it because I like these guys playing. I mean, I think Jefferson had that big thing where he's talking about these players, just taking nights off and shit. It's like, dude, just play. You don't know how long you're going to be in the NBA, and it doesn't matter because there's so much talent. So even if you are playing and you get hurt because of the amount of minutes you're playing, move on to the next guy. That's the way the NBA should be. I know that sounds shitty, but it's just like I just feel like these guys should play when they have the opportunity because you never know when to slip away. And Chris Paul hasn't won a championship, and he's kind of just sitting there, and he's like, fuck, like this season might be my last, but he's gonna play every game so that he can, just like LeBron.
I agree with you 100%. I wish I was sitting here like, no, Monty needs to strategize to make sure that Chris Paul's only getting 20 minutes a game and this and that's like. There's no history that tells us that Monty Williams is going to do that or Chris Paul is going to do that. If Chris Paul's healthy, he's going to play and he should play. Plain and simple. Nobody owns tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen. Well, maybe we know what happens is the playoffs come around, and this is the way that I look at this, okay? The way that the playoffs are structured with a game on, night off, game on, night off, game on, night off, right? That's the grind, especially in the first couple rounds of the playoffs, right? That's the grind that hurts Chris Paul and kind of has for the past decade, if you will, since he's been about 27 years old. So I don't care if you're giving him rested minutes in late January or early February, it doesn't matter, because by the time you hit May and April and May and you hit that structure of scheduling in the playoffs, the wear and tear, it's not like he's like, oh man, I'd be a lot fresher today, but fuck, I paid 39 minutes on a game in January, so guess I'm not as fresh. No, it's not how it is. It's recovery within those time frames. So I'm with you. I think that Monty Williams, Chris Paul, the history that they've displayed, they're not going to change the way that they're going to structure his minutes and try to negate him from being on the court. And we needed him tonight, man. The way that he took over in that third/fourth quarter was vital, because the Spurs just didn't stop coming, man. They didn't stop coming. You take a look at the Spurs, a couple of the guys I want to talk about real quick. The first being this Jeremy Sohan kid from Baylor, 40 minutes played. He was 11 of 25 from the field. Career high as a rookie, 30 points, 3 of 6 from beyond the arc with an ugly shot, 11 of 25, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. When we talk about Jeremy Sohan, is this going to be a kid who moving forward is going to be a thorn in the sun's side like 4 or 5 years from now? Because it feels like it.
It feels like it, but I feel like right now with the Spurs organization, there's so many moving parts. But he can be the thing that I noticed most when watching his game is how cool, calm, and collected he is really throughout the game, and how smart he is. He seems like he has a pretty high IQ. He kind of he draws a foul against Deandre Ayton, or didn't draw. He tried to draw Ayton's 4th foul, but Ayton got the call for once, and things like that. I'm like, okay, that's like kind of like a little bit more. You would think he would be a little bit more amateur, but out there he seems like kind of like a vet in a way. He kind of does, and maybe it's just because he's played against the
19,
Suns.
dude.
I know, isn't it crazy? But
isn't that crazy?
He seems mature. That's the one thing. That's the one thing I look at. But I look at these players a lot and just like, how mature are they already? How are they act on the court between teammates? But honestly, like how can he be a dick, I guess, on the court when you have Popovich as a coach? He would probably saw your head right off, because you can't be that way. But he seems like he's a mature, good teammate, and that's big. And the 30 points, fuck, dude. Everyone was hitting those threes, too, towards the end of the game.
Yeah, all of a sudden, the Spurs, who are one of the worst teams when it comes to three-point shooting in the league, turn into a team full of Steph Currys. I was like, are you kidding me? It always happens against the Phoenix Suns.
I know.
Then you have Keldon Johnson, and Keldon Johnson is a known commodity, if you will, for the San Antonio Spurs. It's like Keldon Johnson and Jakob Poeltl are the two guys coming into this game that like I knew were on the team. I didn't know Zach Collins was on the team. I was like, oh shit, that's where that guy ended up. Injured all that time in Portland, and now he's down there in San Antonio. But Keldon Johnson played 41 minutes. He was 15 of 26 from the field, 3 of 9 from beyond the arc. He had 34 points, 5 assists, 3 rebounds. It's just another one of those solid players. He's an Olympian. He's somebody who, Eddie Johnson was saying, well, he's going to be an all-star someday. And it's just like, God, who did they just trade to the Hawks? DeJounte Murray.
Yeah, jeez.
It was the same thing with like DeJounte Murray. All those years with DeJounte Murray, and they were like, he's going to be an all-star. He got in as an all-star, but like Keldon Johnson is that next guy. My question is, do you think that in any way, shape, or form he becomes available on the market? I doubt it, considering that he just signed a 4-year, $74 million rookie extension and isn't an unrestricted free agent until 2027. But he's making, like next year, for example, he's making $20 million, then 19, then 17.5 in the next 2 years. So he's a highly tradable asset. Do you wish this Phoenix Suns could get him?
No, I don't. I mean, I like how he is listed as a small forward. He plays big for his position, I feel like. He does a lot of the right things. Like I even mentioned with Jeremy, like he just seems like a guy that's, a little bit more mature out there. I think the Spurs can hold on to him, and they probably will, but it'd be nice to
yeah.
kind of get rid of a better player to get Wembanyama, of course. But,
Mm.
they just haven't had anything for a while. I know they had DeJounte Murray, and that didn't work out. Now you kind of know his personality, him calling out the Spurs and stuff, so there was always stuff. There's always going to be shit between players in the franchise. It's crazy. Like, you just never hear about it till they leave. But
Yeah.
I think they just need kind of something there to keep it kind of fresh and just something, to keep these fans that come to games. Because if you just tank the season, you're not going to have anything. But even the subreddit stakeout, there's 4 people in there, dude. Everyone was taking a fucking nap today during this game.
Well, I hope you guys don't take a nap during this ad from DraftKings. 4 NFL teams, 2 conference championship games, and only a few more shots to win big on the playoffs with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Counting down to Super Bowl 57, new customers can bet just $5 and get $200 in free bets instantly. Not a new customer? You can feel the conference championship thrills with stepped-up same-game parlays. Take your shot on an even bigger NFL payout and boost your winnings with each leg you add up to 100%. We're really looking forward to that AFC Championship game between Burrow and Mahomes. Should be a hell of a tosser. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code TBPN. New customers can bet $5 on the conference championships and get $200 in free bets instantly. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code TBPN. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. Yeah, buddy. All right. Let's talk about him.
Watch.
All right. Deandre Ayton in this game. After being crucified by myself on the last podcast. Listen to it, I think. I don't know. 37 minutes played, 11 for 20 from the field. It's 23 points total, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, no blocks. What do you think of Deandre Ayton in this game?
Well, there was like no curricular activities from him. You always get like a little bit of his like kind of personality peeping out once in a while, but tonight it wasn't. It was just kind of serious. It seemed like he just wanted to play the game and get out of there. Stats look really good. It's just the only time you can really trust him in these situations when you're trying to win a game is when he's rolling with the ball with Chris Paul. Anytime he does kind of throw those jump hooks out there, they just didn't look too good, man, especially in crunch time. He just gets kind of skittish. He doesn't really have, of course, his footing yet. So, like I said in the beginning of the pod, there's still a lot of learning to do with him on the court, like a lot. Like if you watch that bench with him and you saw Booker on the sideline trying to coach him up and stuff, but it's nonstop. It's a lot. And I think it's too much really for the remainder of the season, right? To try to get this offense into things. So he kind of has to take a step back and just be the other guy, but he still has a lot of shot attempts. Tonight, what do you have? 23?
23 points on 20 shot
points.
attempts.
Yeah, so 20. So that's fucking awesome, man. He had, I think, 13 at the half.
Yeah.
So he's always going to get his shot attempts no matter. I don't know, man. I think that with his current situation and, he got shit on a lot last game. I still want to see how he is with this team when Booker comes back, of course. But it seems like it's very hard to watch him at times, especially just on the defensive end. That's the worst part. I know the stats are there, but
the stats haven't been there recently.
Not for the defensive end.
Yeah.
But like for offense, he's getting like 20 points a game, basically. But defensively, he has no lift. He doesn't try to actually block the shot. He doesn't have any shot deterrence like he used to. These guys are basically getting to the lane and they're just putting up anything off the glass. They had 66 points tonight in the paint. Not all of that's against Ayton, but it's just like it's so easy, man. Guys are getting teardrops over them, everything they want. And you're just not used to seeing that. So it's been that's been kind of annoying for me.
It's funny how different from a defensive standpoint he looks after you see some busy, right? Like busy times it perfectly. He swats shit. It's night and day. It's completely different. And you're right. The shot deterrence hasn't necessarily been there like it's been in the past. And maybe it's a lack of focus. Maybe it's let's be real. Monty Williams is doing what we've asked Monty Williams to do. Right? Monty Williams is saying, listen, DeAndre Ayton, we need to incorporate you more into the offense. Because, again, when Devin Booker was first out, DeAndre Ayton wasn't getting a ton of shot attempts, and we were all puzzled. We're like, hey, this is when he should be. Whether he makes them or not, you need to start incorporating him into the offense. Right? So You look at his last 3 games played. And that's, again, he missed 3 games due to, they said, an upper respiratory illness that he says he got from his son. You look at his last 3 games played. He's had 20 shot attempts, 20 shot attempts, 20 shot attempts. So they are focusing more on at least trying to run the offense through him a little bit more. And I appreciate that for the same reasons that I said everything about Mikal Bridges. With your primary scorer out in Devin Booker, who averages 27.1 points per game, who is somebody who shoulders the offensive load for you, who, when he goes out, all of a sudden, you're missing a guy. There's 20.4 extra shots per game that are available for you to take. So Mikal Bridges, all of a sudden, in the last 8 games, he's increased his shot attempts. In the last 3 games for Deandre Ayton, he's increased his shot attempts. That's what we want to see right now. Until Devin Booker's back, these guys should be playing and getting more shot attempts. So what does that mean? Well, we're seeing it sacrificed on the defensive end with Deandre Ayton because he's not used to playing both sides of the court with that much energy. We've seen it where he'll have really good offensive games, and then on the defensive end, he's kind of suspect. We've seen it like tonight, and the Big Warthog says it in the chat. And again, thank you everyone who's hanging out in the chat. We really appreciate it. It's the Big Warthog says, Ayton played better, but still looks fatigued. And that's valid. He does look a little fatigued out there, especially in the fourth quarter and overtime. He just looked tired. And you were seeing it because what were they trying to do in the fourth quarter? Well, they were trying to feed the ball to Ayton. And Ayton was missing the little hook shot. He had one where it was a pick and roll with Chris Paul, and he went to go put it in a little, 5-footer, just completely missed everything. And that's where that frustration sets in. So I'm trying to approach this from a sense of understanding and empathy, right? Whereas last podcast, I just went off on him. I'm like, dude, you went 6 for 20. I get you're getting the 20 shot attempts, but dude, you fucking sucked and you didn't grab any rebounds when we needed you to. I'm looking at it and I'm going, you know what? This is a guy who just came off of 3. He missed in 3 games due to upper respiratory illness. Again, I don't know about you, but when I'm sick and I have upper respiratory, I was sick all last week. Maybe that's why I was so cranky the last podcast. It was the first podcast where I was at the tail end of my sickness. But when I'm sick, it takes me a little bit of time to recover, and I'm not even running around on a court. So by the fourth quarter and overtime, I would be fucking gassed too if I was him. But they were still trying to keep him incorporated in the game. So I'm trying to look at it from that standpoint and through that lens, if you know what I mean.
No, I totally understand. These games though, it's practice for what you can expect going forward into the playoffs and how his game's going to match up against other bigs, how he can help his team and, end of game situations. And right now it's basically put the ball in his hands if you want, but then you're going to get kind of, an awkward shot. He's skittish, but that's why he needs it more. He needs more.
That's
attempts.
What drives me crazy about
that
it,
because he hasn't been in the situation though. It's no one's fault. It's just basically the way the Suns ran their offense. With him being like the fourth or third option. Yeah. But also he was okay with that. He was okay with that for the past 2 years. Now
Wouldn't
it's
you be?
like, yes, exactly.
You're like, sweet. I'm the 4th option. Sweet. But now he's getting paid $30 million.
I know exactly. So
yeah.
now it's the 5th year. Now it's like, okay, now we expect a lot. So he has to keep listening to these coaches. He has to keep practicing every day to make sure. I mean, every game he has to practice on this, so where he knows what to do. It has to be fluid. Because when I'm watching like the Sixers and I'm watching Embiid, Aiden's not Embiid. Embiid is bigger. He's longer for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But their games are almost kind of like they're almost the same on offense. Like he has the same kind of he has a little shot, the little jump hook. He has a little fadeaway shot. The only thing though is Ayton that Embiid has that makes him the superstar. He imposes his will, but he also knows how to get to the free throw line. So
100%.
If Ayton knew how to get to the free throw line, I don't think we would have any issues with anything.
Hell no.
And tonight, 2 attempts. Last game, I think, what did he have? 6 or 8?
He had 10.
10? Yeah, so
that was part of as I was ripping Ayton in the last one, a lot of the Jamsters were saying it because again, I went back and I watched the podcast and I watched the live chat, and a lot of them were saying it's like we asked him to play physical. John, he got to the free throw line 10 times, and they're right. Like he finally put a game together where he was actually attacking the rim, but then he goes back in this game and he stops attacking the rim.
Yeah. Okay. And then Detnable does say that Embiid's game is totally different from DA's. It is. So what I'm saying is basically he has the same kind of shot. He has the same kind of spots on the floor that DA has. All right. Embiid will shoot the 3, hits 2 in a row, whatever.
Well,
Embiid's very confident. The thing is,
and the
Embiid,
reason he shoots through 2 in a row is because he's tired on offense and he doesn't want to play offense. But they run the whole offense through him. That's
yes,
the difference.
exactly. But that's what we wanted Ayton to do with this stretch. We wanted to run the offense through him. I've always thought his whole career we can run the offense through him. There's been times where I'm like, he's a great passer. He can do a lot. Just run it through him. It's fine. But now when you get into situations where you want him to get a good looking shot attempt or get to the free throw line, it's almost impossible. Embiid he's that player that can get any kind of shot he wants, but he's a bigger dude, of course. But it's just Ayton doesn't impose his will like Embiid does. No one's scared of DA. If like who was it that ran right through DA tonight and just kind of got
Keldon Johnson.
He hit him right in the freaking jaw or whatever. Like that would never happen like against Embiid. And I'm not saying Ayton is or can be Embiid, but I'm just saying that's what we always kind of envision like from Ayton. I feel like where he can be that type of player, but it's not going to happen. And that's the type of player we kind of need to win a championship. We need a guy that can pose his will in the center position and just get to the line, block
because
shots.
If he got to the line,
but that's just not him. So that's what's going to be so interesting with this, man. That's going to be so interesting.
He's a damn good free throw shooter, right? And you hit it right on the head. If he just wasn't scared of the contact, and you know, just do. I mean, everyone in the NBA does it. You got Jakob Poeltl out there getting the line because somebody will like brush up against him and he'll just kind of act like he got hit a little bit. DA doesn't sell any contact. One, he avoids it, and when it does happen, he doesn't sell it. He expects the referees to
because he doesn't know how
right.
to yet because he's never practiced it. He doesn't know how to. And Embiid is never.
With Chris Paul on the team, he teach him how to sell some fucking fouls.
But that's the thing, though. That's what EJ goes back to when we're talking about what EJ said about he doesn't take the next steps that Booker and Chris Paul want him to. You have guys on this team that want you to succeed and want you to be the best you can be. But I feel like he's just never been that guy to care too much to really go to that next level, like an Embiid, to where he can be physical and dominant because he can be. It just takes time. It's going to look really ugly. But now it's kind of too late in a way. But maybe it's not. Maybe if he can,
it's not because he just signed the deal, man. Like we got him for the next 5 years.
I know, and we're gonna have him, but it just depends how they use him now because he's gonna be a guy that's gonna be the 4th guy on our offense, our 5th guy now. I just think because the way it looked tonight too, it's just like I don't trust it. He's the last guy I trust with the ball, so it'll be that way for a while.
No, you're 100% right. And again, that's what makes him so polarizing as a player. He's your number 1 pick. He's your max center. He can put up some good statistics so some people can sit there and they could bring the statistics out and be like, well, look, 23-8, like really good game. And then you could watch the game and you can see something completely different because we view him under that microcosm and we will continue to do so. But once again, we spent way too much time talking about DeAndre Ayton.
It's so fun. I honestly, it's my favorite segment.
I do too. I like talking about it. And it's funny because you watch the chat and everybody's like, yeah, you know, Mikal, you know, pro and con Mikal, pro and con Chris Paul, and then you say the word DeAndre Ayton, and everyone's just like, I'll fucking kill you. I'm gonna find you. They're like, people start arguing in the chat. It's fantastic, and that's what DeAndre Ayton is. That's what he does to us, man. That's what he does to us.
What's up?
I got a real quick question. I wrote this in my notes. Torrey Craig, he had 8 points tonight. He hit that big 3. He was really silent, but he had a big 3 in regulation that helped the team ultimately send it to overtime.
Yeah.
You know, but outside of that, where the hell has Torrey Craig been? Honestly, you know, he had 20 points against the Memphis Grizzlies, but he had 0 points against Charlotte. He had 5 points against Dallas. Like, he's just, you know, 6 rebounds tonight, 8 points. Do you think that Cameron Johnson being back, like Torrey Craig's just like, wah, wah, wah?
No, I think that a lot of it has to do with DeAndre Ayton. No, it actually kind of does maybe in a way because you can even tell the way that the Suns are getting to the free throw line. Like they had the 26 attempts tonight, but it seemed like they would always get to it a lot more without DA. But also, I just think the cutting and stuff is kind of down a little bit. Like if DA were to play more towards the free throw line, he's a great passer that can hit a lot of these guys. And he loved Torrey Craig, I feel like, when they first started playing together without Cameron Johnson. But now it's just kind of like he's kind of taking a step back. Torrey Craig, that is. Mm-hmm. But I'm fine with it. I think you got to save that energy. You always notice that he is talking and helping DA out a lot more, though. They do talk a lot on rebounds. There's always still some miscommunication. So honestly think, like I said before last pod, it's going to take a while. I know DA was only missing 3 games, but with everyone else coming back, it's going to take everybody else to kind of adjust in their own way. So I think Torrey Craig's part of that. And I think Torrey Craig's fine. He's not costing the Suns on a lot of plays. He's just not really there. But we never really expect him to be like that guy. I love that we can count on Mikal and Cameron Johnson to be like, oh, those guys are getting the ball. I notice those guys I would rather notice those guys more than Torrey Craig.
No, you're right.
You know what I mean?
You talked me down. I was like, I want a little bit more from Torrey just because I like Torrey.
I love Torrey though.
I've liked him this season, but I see that the chat's still heated. So there's one way to always cool the chat off, Matthew.
The Sarge smoke break.
And that is quite simply to have a little bit of a smoke break, everybody. Dario Saric in this game, 23 minutes played, 1 of 8 from the field, 2 points, 13 boards.
Woo!
1 block.
Dude.
How about Sarge, baby? How about Sarge?
How about
Sarge and our boy Suns Geek hanging out in the chat. Get them right down there, Suns Geek. Hang out in the chat. Get everyone to be nice to each other again.
Oh man, yeah, Sarge can really bring a room together.
He can.
Those boards, dude. Those fouls, dude. Did he have 7 fouls tonight?
Yeah, I what it felt. He ended up with 4, but
he ended up with 4. We got 3 right away or something. Chris,
yeah, I did.
He just always does, dude.
And he just looks at the ref. He's like, "Shit, are you kidding me?" There, he's like, "Yeah, man." Like he's like, "Your forehead fouled one person." But you walked in there like that forehead technical.
Yeah, I think what he does for this team though is just whatever every game. Is so random and so weird. You know, you always have a hard time talking about these guys because they might have the same game every game, but Sarge is just different, man. But then I just sit back and I enjoy it. I don't know, dude. If we win, it's okay.
Real quick, Josh Okogie and Damian Lee, like what happened to them?
It's the adjustment, I think, dude. I really think, dude.
But they're not out there. They're not out there with Cam Johnson. Like,
no, I mean, like, just because I feel like the way you have to play when you're missing guys, and then when DA was out, like they even played better, like that. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we got to take over this game because when Okogie comes in, it seems like he's trying to get into the groove, but he makes more mistakes now. Where it's like, what the fuck are you doing now? Like, we don't need that. Like the certain shots he had off of one-legged, like he was doing some one-legged weird shit. And it's just like, oh, we don't need that now anymore. Kobe.
Yeah,
Just play your game. But that's the adjustment.
That running jumper off the window that was like 3 feet too high.
Yeah, and EJ's like, that's a no or whatever. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. So you're getting weird games. Lee's still trying to do what did he? I thought he had a decent game. Was it 3 for 8? It just seemed like it was decent.
He was 3 for 8 for 7 points.
Yeah, he's I don't know, man. He was turning the ball over too. What do you have? 3 turnovers? Yeah, he's doing too much with the ball still. So I'm not even gonna talk about him until he fucking stops doing that shit. Like, just stop handling the ball so much, man.
Yeah, rather annoying. And then the only other question I had was about this.
Lights, Cameron, action.
Cameron Johnson in this game, 32 minutes played, 5 of 12 from the field, had 15 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. Was really kind of a spark in the second quarter as I was napping. Do you like that Cameron Johnson's the only guy out there wearing black shoes?
I never noticed the shoes.
Why?
I always notice if they're like a bright color or something, but I never notice as much. I hear a lot of shoe talk all the time. Maybe because I've never been into shoes.
You just wear Vans.
I do, because you know why? It's because all these new designs and stuff. It's like, how many different kind of designs can you have on these shoes?
Yeah,
some of them pop.
But what they do is they take the old shoes, like the Kobe Proton 4s or 5s, and they just have different colors on them and stuff. And they rock the J's. And I like Cameron Johnson. He's the only guy out there. He's got white socks, black shoes. I love the look. And like, because what Cam Johnson does is he'll sit there and he had that great run where he just, he made a great defensive play. He goes down, he takes it right to the rack, and he's just like his little his little white socks and black feet are just like running back up the court. It just looks cool. I don't know. That's just me. He
almost injured Torrey Craig today too. Like
that
fall he had. Oh my god, man. Chill out.
Yeah, I was worried about that. But you know what I wasn't worried about? Subreddit stakeout.
The Suns Jam Session Subreddit stakeout.
All right, Matthew, you were hanging out in San Antonio. What was going on the San Antonio subreddit? This has got to be good.
So it was definitely nap time in San Antonio. Like I said, there was 2 people going back and forth on subreddit for like the whole
That's-
first two.
that's-
I swear to God, for the first half, unless I'm in the wrong spots, dude. Because I only took 2 comments from there, man. I was like, I'm not gonna. What am I doing in here? Like, it's the same 2 people, and they're just talking about the game. Very depressing. It was like walking to like an old people's home, and like the old boob tubes on. He's sitting next to him, and there's just 2 older guys talking. That's not depressing. That's actually probably more fun.
But they
than
weren't even
this.
talking about the television show.
Yeah, it was actually more like a insane asylum. We're just like looking at a screen that's not even on. Biombo has been annoyingly good against us for the last 2 years. That is true. And Saric is ass. Yeesh.
Okay. Wow. Well, there
And that's the
The Suns Jam Session Subreddit Stakeout.
the shortest one ever. Like the segment, like the lead up segment is longer than the actual segment.
I should have just read it during the whole thing.
Just read those 2 and then carry on with your life.
Yeah.
Before we get to Jam Start, well, let's go ahead and talk about Jam
Let's do
Start.
it.
I got some things to talk about outside of it.
Jam star of the game.
All right, Jamsters, as a reminder, subscribe, rate, review, hit that thumbs up button, and all that good stuff. My turn to go first. I'm going Mikal Bridges. Fantastic in this game. 6 for 6 in the fourth quarter and overtime combined for 14 points. He is quite easily the reason why this Phoenix Suns team survived and that we're not killing ourselves on live TV.
Yeah. I was going to give it to Chris Paul because I feel like, Chris Paul took over, obviously. But it's just nice. I'm going to go Mikal, though, because it's just nice you have the other guy that can just take over now. It's him for sure.
Yeah, it was absolutely huge, man. It's just absolutely huge.
I like it.
And you need it. And again, I can't wait till Devin Booker's back just to see how.
It's gonna be so fun, dude.
I don't want.
Are you gonna cry when he's back?
I don't want. Yeah. I
might cry a little bit.
I'll be teary eyed. It'll be
Yeah.
tough.
Well, did you hear Bill Simmons talk about him?
Yeah. On the low.
Yeah, I didn't hear it until today. I didn't even listen to the Low Post pod.
Yeah,
so.
I didn't either. That was the first time I'd heard it. He's just like,
yeah,
it was great. It was absolutely fantastic. Other things I wanted to talk about before we get out of here today. Okay, we got about 8 minutes before. Question number 1: what should I have for dinner? I haven't eaten yet. And I'm starving.
Well, honestly, dude, I always hear there's that repeat of the Taco Bell commercial that's always on. It's like with the Avril Lavigne song. It's like, say it to myself, say it to yourself. And there's like attractive people eating out in the desert, flying planes. It's like,
yeah,
fucking turn the TV off. I fucking hate this shit. So
what should I get?
I would say I would still Taco Bell. I had Del Taco last night.
Okay, maybe I'll go get some
Taco Bell.
What about Whopper Junior, Whopper Junior, Whopper?
I don't
Junior.
hear that one.
Watch the show. My cousin Sal hears it all the time. Matt Ishbia will be taking over ownership. It's reported that he's going to do so on the 8th of February. Trade deadline's the 9th of February. Do you think he comes in and it's just like, yo, let's trade some shit, man? Or do you think he's just like, all right, Jay Crowder, and that's it?
I think he has a feel right now. I think he knows what he's going to do when he gets in there. I think they know exactly what's going to happen when they can make a trade. So yeah, I don't know what it's going to be. It's going to be something totally random. I think it's going to be something small. But yeah.
So
what do you think?
In that same breath, there's 2 players that have been linked. A lot of people are being linked to the Suns right now. It's that time of year where we are about 2 weeks. I think we're just shy of 2 weeks, 12 days, 13 days until the trade deadline. So now you're starting to hear all of these. Well, so-and-so's linked to so-and-so. Everybody's linked to the Suns right now. Just understand that, Suns fans. As you're scrolling through Twitter or if you're on Facebook or you're reading the newspaper and you're seeing people or you're listening to Burns and Gambo, who anytime there's anybody, he's like, there's no way that guy is linked to the Suns. But anytime, because of the Jay Crowder asset, everybody's linked to the Suns because the Suns are actively shopping a player and everybody knows it. But 2 names came up this week, and I want to get your thoughts on these 2 players being linked to the Phoenix Suns. The first is none other than Devin Booker's guy, D'Lo.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about him potentially coming to the Phoenix Suns?
It's a guy that I didn't like. I feel like he has a lot of growing up to do, but I'm like, you know what? Like, excuse me, who really was a leader on their team? Who's the guy that can, kind of help them out as a veteran? I think we have that on this team. So if he were to be traded, it's like, what do we give up? Do we give up a bunch of our guards for his and then a couple first round picks or something? I'm kind of down with that, only because I feel like we have leaders on this team that can kind of guide him. And Booker always said he wanted to play with him. I think he would be a good guy, but what would he do? Come off the bench? Would he be okay with that?
He'd have to be.
He would have to be okay with that. But I don't know if that's too much money for a guy coming off the bench. So it's kind of weird. I'm not super excited if it happens. I just have to see what we give up for him. That's the worrisome part for me.
Well, what's interesting about D'Lo is he's an unrestricted free agent next year. He's an expiring contract. That's why his name's being mentioned.
Is he? Okay.
Now. He is. He's $31 million this year. But that being said, and don't quote me on this, Jamsters, because I'm not 100% sure how it works. Although I will be soon because I'm putting together this whole trade primer piece for brightsideofthesun.com. But he's $31 million this year, but part of that's already been paid out. Right? So it's not a full $31 million that you'd have to pay for him. It's probably somewhere around half of that. So like Jay Crowder / something could equal that. I'm not sure. I will have to check on that. But I'm with you. D'Lo is somebody who I think he's inefficient. He's kind of a hero ball kind of guy. We have enough guards, I feel. And I feel like D'Lo is one of those guys who could potentially screw up team chemistry. And again, like this is the other side of the trade deadline debate. And this is something that I always kind of talk about. It's like whatever you're doing, you have to keep team chemistry intact. Now, if he comes in, he's somebody who comes in off the bench and it doesn't necessarily mess up team chemistry that much. If you're trading for a starter, like the next guy I'm going to mention, the team chemistry will be affected. So D'Lo, if the money's right and it involves Jay Crowder out the door, I'm okay with it. But again, I think you'd have to send out too much to actually get D'Lo here. So
maybe, yeah. And plus, what did he go 7 for 7 tonight in the first quarter from 3 or something
from beyond
crazy?
the arc, yeah.
Yeah. So he must know something.
He's up in his value.
Yeah, he knows something.
But again, that question becomes, is he going to be a member of the Minnesota Timberwolves after the trade deadline? Because he's an expiring contract. They're going to try to get something for him.
Well, I don't know. After games like that, where a lot of Wolves fans are saying like, "Oh, that backcourt looks good." Maybe one game, but I'm telling you, man, he needs someone to put him under their wing, and I think Booker's the perfect guy. Booker's like the older brother to him. I feel like in a way, he's like, "Here, come over here. We'll tell you what to do, but you got to listen. You got to listen to us, and we'll put you in a good way to win."
Well, and Booker has
if
that
he's coming off our
respect from
bench,
people.
that's pretty fucking good for a guard. For him, I think that's an awesome pickup. It's just like you said. What do we have to give up?
Yeah, what do we have to give up? And Landon Alverson says in the chat, we have enough guards. Really? That's a horrible take. We have a guy on a 10-day contract and a backup point guard. Let me say this, Landon. We have enough guards. We don't have enough healthy guards right now because Cameron Payne, Devin Booker, and Landry Shamet are all injured. If they're all present and accounted for, yeah, we have enough guards. We're 6 deep at guard. We need, in my opinion, we need more help on the forward position behind our power forward, which brings me to the next guy who the Suns have been linked to, not on LinkedIn, and that's John Collins. And here we go, the John Collins debate. It was mentioned by, I believe, Zach Lowe. He mentioned that the Suns are a team that are interested, and Zach Lowe mentioned trading expiring salary plus 2 picks, and then says the Hawks might be willing to do it for 1 pick. So if you trade an expiring contract, which is Jay Crowder, God, I almost forgot the guy's name. It's been so long since I've seen him play. But if you send Jay Crowder and a pick to the Atlanta Hawks, looking at John Collins, is he somebody who you'd be interested in bringing into the Phoenix Suns?
If that's all you give up for John Collins, yeah. I almost have the same kind of take on him as I do D'Lo. I think he just needs like kind of good leadership. That team's been falling apart, right? I mean, they don't have the leadership that the Suns have. And I know everyone's like, well, what are you talking about? Like, Jay wants to leave here, so where's the leadership? But that's his own thing. He's older now. He's trying to move on and do his own thing, make more money. I think John Collins would fit good. If you give up only Jay Crowder and you tell me we have John Collins added to this team, fuck, dude, I would do backflips over that one. I really would. I wouldn't give up Mikal or Cameron Johnson or anybody as valuable as that for John Collins, but he's not a guy, of course, to get to the free throw line too much. I think he has like 2 or 3 attempts per game, but he's a guy that he plays hard. I feel like if he has a good situation around him, he'll play hard for you. And he does a lot of things that like Mikal can do, but also he can do a lot of things of like shot creating and stuff like that. So I feel like he's still blossoming into a player that I think he can be, which is a hustle player that can score under the rim. And I think that's something the Suns might need, man. You know what I mean? That would be awesome, right?
I think so. I mean, he's $25 million a year, so you'd have to send a couple assets out. Again, locker room guy. This is where I talk about team chemistry. Like locker room guy, he's somebody who has been just not playing to his potential because his name's been in the rumors. He's moody, things of that nature. And who knows? Maybe a change of scenery. Maybe it's an Aaron Gordon situation, right? Like Aaron Gordon, all of a sudden he goes to Denver, and granted, he's playing next to a 2-time and potential 3-time MVP, but all of a sudden he starts playing really well.
Yeah.
I just don't know if John Collins is the right fit because I feel like we just have another DA issue. I honestly think that we'd have a guy who can. The difference is he can make a slam dunk, right? Like, but everything outside of that, he's not a great defender in any way, shape, or form. And again, the challenge I have with John Collins is like, why does Atlanta want to trade him all the time? Like they extended him. They gave him a 5-year, $125 million contract that kicked in last season. He's not a UFA until 2026.
I don't know.
So why they always want to,
there are those guys that are on other teams that teams want to get rid of. And then we're sitting over here like, how come you want to get rid of John Collins? I mean, I see it. I know why. Like you just pointed it out, obviously, but I can see why they would want to get him up. And 25 mil, I mean, what do we pay Mikal? 20 per season?
Yeah,
per game?
like 21.
21
up to 24.
I'm not saying Collins is better. I think the potential's there. If the Suns see something that they think they can manage, then why not? But yeah, like you said, they're gonna have to give up maybe like a Shamet 2 and a Cameron Payne to match the contracts, which I'm fine with that too.
For John Collins, I'm not.
Really?
I'm just not, because then you're really depleted at guard. And Landon responded. He said, "Backup point guard's what I'd prefer by 10 miles. Let's debate." No, I'm with you. I would like our point guard of the future. That's what would be great. Is if we literally had the guy just standing there. In the wings. I mean, that'd be the best case scenario. But that's not going to happen at the trade deadline.
They're saying that like quickly or guys like that.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking right now. I'm thinking the way Mikal can handle the ball and stuff. When you have Booker, like, does it matter if we have 1 or 2 backup point guards of Chris Paul that can come in, like a Dwayne Washington, or even if we had the guy, the 10-day Saban Lee. Like, I'm just saying, not playoffs, but like when it comes down to like playing big minutes, we have guys now that can handle the ball. We don't need like that backup point guard, maybe like Cameron Payne, but even he failed us last playoff. So you're gonna say like, oh, I don't want to give that many backup point guards, but it's like, can you rely on them in crucial games, you know what I mean? Crucial minutes in the playoffs. I don't know. I can rely on Mikal.
And at the end of the day, like, that's what we have to be thinking about, is not necessarily regular season success. We felt that. We need to be thinking about postseason success. You know, you look at John Collins and his deliverables. He hits the power forward. You know what we need. He's 13.4 points per game. Like you said, you know, well, he averages 2.5 free throw attempts. I could just see us getting pissed off because he doesn't get to the line. I could just see it because we're already pissed off at DA for it.
I know, but he's like
the physicality.
I know. I think he's physical, but he just doesn't have that where he can get to the line. But I don't know. It's weird with him. I think there's a potential there, but who knows?
Well, we'll see. Trade deadline's right around the corner. Next up for the Phoenix Suns, they're playing the Toronto Raptors. Bright side night. It's here, Matthew. It's here. You and I will be at the game. We'll actually be down there early at 5:30. We're part of a crew of about 30 people who are going to have a 1-on-1 or a 30-on-1, giggity, with general manager James Jones. Yeah, that's happening, James.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, Matthew and I will be down there. We'll be talking with James Jones at 5:30. We'll be going to the game, and then we'll be probably have a brief podcast afterwards. We'll probably have one where we'll talk briefly from the arena on our phones, streaming right here on YouTube, posting it on all of our socials afterwards. Wherever you listen to your podcast, you'll hear it the next day as well. I don't know what it's going to be like, because I know that after the game, I believe we're going down on the court and having that big picture taken with all the bright side night people, all the people who donated, a lot of the kids who are going. There's a ton of kids who are going to this game. Again, the Ishbias donated $100,000 to Bright Side Night. We made a donation. My work actually made a donation the other day for about $400. It was just, you know, so many kids are going to get to go and feel what it's like to watch the Phoenix Suns lose to the Raptors. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, no, I think we'll win. They
I
better
don't know,
win.
man. The Raptors they beat us last time we played them.
Yeah, that's true. It's funny how everyone wants these Raptors players, but they can't even be, a legit team in the East. I don't understand it.
Yeah, they're just a long team. They're a tough team because of their length, and I think that's going to be a challenge for the Phoenix Suns. I really do.
Yeah.
And they have that consistency. There was a rumor today. Again, I spent the majority of the day up in Flagstaff. I drove up there, hung out with my stepdaughter, hung out in the snow with my dogs and such. Pushed one of my dogs in a stroller.
Yeah.
Which was like a highlight moment in my life. But one of the reports that I saw today was that OG Anunoby is unhappy in Toronto, and of course that gets everybody's ears perked up. And maybe we could just trade for him and he could stay here. I don't know.
Yeah. What if I make this prediction that Booker's back? I think Booker's back. I think Booker will be back that night.
That'd be dope, man. We can cry in person.
I bet you he comes back. I think he's ready.
All right. Well, let's go then. Well, again, Jamsters, thanks for hanging out with us after this game. Win for the Phoenix Suns, 26-25. We'll see you on Monday night briefly afterwards for the Suns versus the Raptors post-game podcast on Brightside Night. Until then, everybody, I'm going to go. I guess Matthew said I have to go get Taco Bell, and I am starving, so I'm going to go get me some Taco Bell.
All right. Go home and love your Takis. Bells.